something around, just in the same way that you can't have solid without space or space without solid. When you wake up to this and realize that the more it changes, the more it's the same thing, as the French say, that you are really a playing of this one energy, and there is nothing else but that it is you, but that for you to be always you would be an insufferable bore. And therefore, it is arranged that you stop being you after a while, and then come back as someone else altogether.
All right.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about money and what Tom and I have been doing specifically and embodying to create in our lives, because I've been encountering a lot of different people, myself included, a lot recently and just throughout my life in general, that what I'm realizing is that a lot of people are making decisions, based on money and based on kind of like fear around money. And what I wanted to share today can be applied to like so many different things in your life. We're just going to kind of angle it today about money. But it can be applied to lots of other things that we either want to change in our lives or to create with and things like that. So really this information can be used for whatever we feel is like our limitations and how to work with it. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So I'll just share like an experience that I've had in the past, in the recent past. So many of you may know that I do like readings, and I do human design and astrology and what we call soul mapping readings. And so I've been practicing with what Tom and I have been calling like the human game or the money game for like a year. Some of you may have seen some of our episodes about money alchemy and reclaiming your power from these limiting beliefs. And we've been practicing this for like probably about like a year now.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, so but I still see where like my own fears of money can come in, and but I've experienced a lot of amazing things happen in my life. We were living in Costa Rica last October. And it was kind of like at a low point in my life. I had been through a lot of experiences that were great, but a lot of learning and self-worth stuff, because that's, as you'll see when we get into it more today, that's a huge factor in your abundance, is your own self-worth. But yeah,
challenges.
Yeah, a lot of challenges, and some of you may experience this as well, where you might like give a lot, and if we take a deeper look at that, sometimes we give too much, especially when we feel like that somehow might make us feel better about ourselves, which doesn't honor anybody.
Yeah, I think I found, especially in this kind of like new paradigm economy and world, with different types of healing practices and people that are going this route of whether it's doing consultations or healing or something in that field, there's this kind of stigma of it should all be free or should be giving it away. If we're a healer, then well,
I even thought that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the beginning, I was like, oh, well, why are these people like charging all this money for like healing? It should be free. And so I understand it's not anybody, trying to do something necessarily malicious, but we do all need to understand like our own values and value other people. But yeah, I see that a lot too.
Yeah, I would say I had the same thing. It's just, I guess, a program that comes along with just a lot of I think the misinterpretation of a lot of different spiritual texts or things like that. Just the idea of selflessness. I think our mind immediately kind of comes in and goes, oh, selflessness, that means just like
give everything
be
away.
a beggar, or like you're giving everything away, or not needing not needing like a self-worth. It's like selflessness, so it automatically means these states of lack of like, oh, I don't need to take anything for myself because I'm being selfless. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and that's,
I had the same thing.
part of what I experienced when I was in Costa Rica. I was like, well, if I just give, then, the other people will also be in balance. And I was always, we learned a lot about making agreements and setting boundaries and just,
Huge stuff.
going through our own process. And, um, so maybe what we can share with you guys will help you in your own process with that as well, because it was very, difficult, but we're in like such a better situation. So we were in Costa Rica from last October for like 15 months before that. Um, learning a lot and everything. And we were kind of at like this lower point where I was at a point where I was like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Like I couldn't really make money. I was like in the jungle. I was getting all these fears around money, even though we had been traveling for like 4 years somehow, without like a consistent income. We would do work with projects
Entrepreneurship.
and stuff like that, and it would always seem that like the universe would come through with stuff when we needed it, but it doesn't really alleviate all the time when you're like stressing out when it's like your bank account's going low and you're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So we were kind of in one of those points. And we started working with like the money alchemy at that point, where the money alchemy is just like how you can transmute any of these other limitations in your life. um, you first have to start with your self-talk and like your beliefs and what you're creating, because how we feel about ourselves, like our self-worth, how we feel about money, like do you feel like you're limited with money right now? Do you feel like there's a lack in your life? And there may be, but like you have to first start with like changing that. When you pay your rent, are you like, oh God, I'm paying my rent, that's so much money? Or are you like, wow, thank you, and you're like giving the money because you're appreciative of your space? Or like when you're out and about and you spend money at the grocery store, or you're shopping or whatever it is, do you feel guilty after you buy something? Do you feel guilty after you've bought things that you need?
Or are you choosing products that, aren't as good for you, like they aren't as healthy for
Yeah,
your
maybe you're
body
not
just
buying
because you're like,
organic.
oh, okay, well, this is way cheaper and I can't afford that right now,
Yeah. So you're like dishonoring yourself, as you're going through that process as well. And we went through this, we had to process and figure all this stuff out as well. Um, so yeah, your self-talk is really important. How do you feel about yourself? Like one of the first things you can do, first of all, is realize your abundance, and be grateful. Because whatever you emanate and like whatever you're embodying, and this is not like fluffy, woo-woo stuff. Like this is real. Like this actually happens. I've seen checks of thousands of dollars come out of nowhere. I'm not even exaggerating that. Like this week, I found in another account that I hadn't checked in a while, like almost $600 that I swore was in another account. It just like appears, literally. It sounds crazy. Like I know you're probably like, what the hell? This sounds crazy. But you have to start with this like mentality of like you are abundant, right? Like you are able to generate and to bring and to have service, like to give service and to contribute. And you have to start with that like first part of, okay, I'm not going to have this weird relationship with money anymore. If you're like a couponer, and like, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like if you're living from a place of lack, you will never come out of that. If it's in a state where you're like, oh, I can't spend this money, and you're really tight with your money, and like you're not giving. You know what I mean? You're not like sharing this energy of like giving. So we know like if we give, that it comes back, right? And this will bring us back to what I was just talking about with like, and what you were saying with the selflessness. So there is kind of you have to honor your own self-worth too first.
Well, some other things that were coming recently, were like revelations about the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. Remember, I was talking about that, and then like the connections with nature. A lot of times if we want to see how to go about things and like what how we should be working energetically, we can look at nature. And but in terms of the all-seeing eye thing, so I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the dollar bill, right? It has the pyramid with the eye on it, and it's like removed from the pyramid, and you know, there's so many different interpretations of why it's there and what it means, and all sorts of different stuff that comes along with that. Um, but in particular, these revelations were about the magic of money and currency and how that works. And you know, really at the heart of it, the all-seeing eye, regardless of the positive or negative interpretations of it, you know, why it's on the dollar bill, the all-seeing eye is at its heart is just showing us that it's our third eye. Like we are a portal for the creative energy of the creator or the universe
Your
or
higher
source
self.
or higher
Yeah.
self. And so have it being that portal, right? So we are a point of where the creator is experiencing this creation or this fractal hologram that we're within right now. And so if we are that point, right, we are essentially, you know, a microcosm of the creator and the creation, correct? So if we want that energy and that current to flow properly, we can come from this place of knowing, oh wait, like if I'm this portal for the creator source being, like the creator source being is always going to continually feed energy to its creations, right? It's like um, if you're an aspect of creator, you're only can basically limit yourself on what's possible because you know, again, looking around at nature, in order for the energy to flow properly in nature, it has to flow. Like you can't be coming from this place of like, there's a difference between like wealth as we generally see it and prosperity, right? Where wealth is like this amassing of energy, you're compiling and you're piling up and you're stockpiling this energy. Where prosperity, on the other hand, if we look at nature, is like how energy continually flows to the trees, like the trees fruit, right? And then they drop the fruit because the fruit needs to be spread, the seeds need to be spread, needs to go to these other places. We
Yeah, it's
look
not holding on to the fruit going, no, I only have, 100
right.
fruits on my tree right now. I gotta save them and,
Exactly. But and in fact, it's like it's quite the opposite. Like where when nature has to do something, it has to complete something. Like we can look at like an ecosystem, like one of our projects or something in our life, right? Nature continually feeds more resources to places that have and need more life and are more abundant and are basically spending that energy wisely because nature and life wants to proliferate. It wants to grow and be more abundant. So we have to mimic that and mirror that in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to make a point too because we were talking about how like yes, you want to give selflessly, but then there's also like you have to honor yourself too. So there's always a balance, right? So what we've experienced and what you've probably experienced is really this idea or concept that everybody kind of has their own idea of what is balanced.
Right.
You might be giving somebody like 100 hours of work and they're like, oh, well, I gave you a room in my house for a month, and it's like, well, good, but like, maybe that's not really balanced, so we always kind of have to figure out agreements and balances ahead of time to like the best that we can and have check-in times where it's like, all right, let's check in a month and see how everyone's feeling because not only do you need to honor yourself and your self-worth and you're starting with your self-talk and all of that, but you also need to like honor like what you value in yourself, like what is coming back to you. And if you don't honor that and you sell yourself for less, basically, you're also dishonoring the other person that's like paying you or giving you whatever because
Definitely.
you're basically saying you don't even have enough, value to give
You
me.
can't afford
Yeah.
You can afford this.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like we all need to value ourselves truly, give and be generous and give. And then like we need to honor and value what other people are doing and bringing to the table as well. So kind of I mentioned it earlier when I was like, well, I do these readings and things like that. Um, And it was interesting because I've had a few people that have contacted me to do like trades, right? They were like, hey, I want to do some trades. They contacted me and I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's try it, you know. And it's just really interesting because people contacted me to do trades, and I give my whole heart, everything I can, you know, because I really want to help the person. And then I had some people that just like, you know, I would do my part and then they would like leave. And they still have not like fulfilled their end of the agreement. So the other part to this is because we are these quantum creators, I know that what that means is that I still have to like figure out my own self-worth, right? There's something that I need to look at.
Yeah, the reflection.
So I've contacted those people, you know, in a nice way, and I was like, look, you know, there's an imbalance, and you know what's going on, and those types of things. But the other part to this is if somebody doesn't pay you or they don't value you, the other part is that you still need to release that to the universe and trust that it will still come back. So you're still valuing yourself and your self-worth, which means the way you talk about your money, when you use your money, right? This is something that because you value yourself and what you have created in your life, whether it's a phone bill, you know, or a grocery bill, or these types of things where you are giving your money as a token of appreciation. That's what it's for, as appreciation. At that point, you know, that's when you're really creating in this realm, because you're putting off the energy of appreciation. Okay, and when you put off the energy of appreciation, and you can like address the things that come in where there's like a boundary or an agreement that you created that is not being respected, you can release that, you know, into the reality and say, okay, I trust it's going to come back, and it's okay, because we shouldn't always count all of our losses. We need to focus on giving, focus on being appreciative, and, you know, valuing the other person. I wasn't even charging for like 3 years. Like, I was just giving like readings, and I loved it, and I was learning and all this stuff, and I didn't even start charging until somebody asked me. They were like, how much do you charge for this? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I need to figure that out, because and this is the other thing too. If you give something to somebody for free, people know about this in psychology. This is the basics of energetics.
Ceremony circles.
Everything. If people don't invest, like say that I was going to get a consultation from somebody and I did not invest my currency, my energy, my investment into, you know, what they're giving me to open the channel of energy.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, then
you're not going to value it.
Well, and it's not even something like it's a choice. Yeah. It's like the energy currency is not available. You know, there hasn't been an exchange.
It's energy laws.
Yeah, because all of this is about exchange of information. You know, it's like we're appreciating, we're sharing currency, and like to share the human experience, we need to like share with each other and like, you know, appreciate each other and things like that. But I mean, so I've had some clients come to me, they would like want to do some amazing things, and you know, I've been working with them as well on this like money alchemy, and like, okay, first thing is like realize your abundance, you know, focus on the feeling that you want. Like, what do you actually want with the money? Because this is not even about money. What it really is about is your liberation. You know what I mean? Do you want to be a millionaire, or do you want to like work, you know, doing what you love and work only like 10 hours a week, but you have time to, you know, continue your education, spend time with your family, go out in nature. You know, time is really what this is about. You know, all of this stuff is about our time. You know, so the money alchemy, the money magic, the wealth stuff, this is really all about you being able to get your life into a space that's correct for you, and so that you can allocate your time accordingly, so you can be in a healthier space and doing what you love. Um, Tim Ferriss talks about the, what does he say? Like he does the 4-hour work week, which is also a good thing. But which we haven't finished it yet, but what I heard was pretty good. And he talks about this one part where he's like, um, kind of just the example I just gave, where somebody's like they built this business and it's like millions of dollars a month that it's generating, but they can't take a vacation. They don't have any time. You
Right,
know,
because they're so like wound into every aspect of it that they like if they leave it just all collapses, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and so this also brings up another point that I wanted to share was like, it's interesting because when we were in Costa Rica and other places, we were doing these collaborations. Well, we thought we were collaborating, but it's basically a really severe work trade. um, but so what I'm saying is that people with like collaborating are even having a hard time because it's about money. It's about power, it's about control, and it's like not every person, like, we don't want people to give up their brand or to give up what they're creating. Like each person is creating like a pillar of things, but
Mm.
how do we become stronger by sharing with each other? You know what I mean? We have to know the balance of energy. It's like slavery. If you have someone come to your house and you're like, okay, you're gonna live here, but we're gonna make you work all the time, and like, yeah, we're collaborating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We didn't have a good experience with like work
I
trades.
think, and we've talked to a lot of people, and that seems to just kind of be the the kind of general theme of like a lot of work trading is just this like, okay, come live with me, and then basically you do
Do
whatever
whatever
I
I want.
say, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and so I'm not saying every work trade is like that, but the main point is that like when we're collaborating with people, we have to honor ourselves and honor the other person. Ask for what you're worth and what's fair. You know, if you ask for less and you keep doing something for less, the energy builds, right? Where it's like you're kind of building this like, whether you want to or not, you're building a little bit of resentment. The energy starts to fall on you when you're doing a lot more work and it's not sustainable. Like, it's not sustainable for anybody to like do a bunch of stuff for free. How are you going to keep doing the stuff for free and helping people if you're not like getting the balance back, you know? So it's also something that's like just not sustainable. It's a great idea of like, I just want to be selfless, forever. And believe me, and I've been told this before, I'm super generous. I should get paid more, for what I do, and I still give as much as I can. But I've also learned a lot about like honoring myself, and my boundaries and like my agreements with people, because I was one of those people that like I'd be like, wow, I like gave so much of my life and so much resources and everything. I just throw it all on the table and go, whatever we need to do, guys, let's just make it work here. What can I bring? Blah blah blah. And I would like end up, and this is my fault, no one's fault. Like I would end up feeling really hurt because I'm like, wow, like, okay, I've done all this stuff, but I wasn't skillful enough to make agreements or, say for what I need all the time clearly, which was a big
Yeah.
lesson. But yeah, I would end up like being hurt and feeling like, I wasn't taken care of either, and so we don't want anybody to like feel that way. So, in essence, first thing to do is to change your self-talk. We are all abundant. Everyone is abundant. Everyone is worthy. Everyone has value. Um, so changing the self-talk, you know, if you're one of those people that says, wow, I have such a hard time with money though. Money just doesn't come to me, or, whatever, like, things that people say like that. If you're saying things like this, don't let it come out of your throat, and you have to address it here, because the mind is the thing that creates the anxiety. It's the thing
Mm-hmm.
that's creating this, like, it's trying to, because of programming and the way our society is and how competitive things are, it's really trying to get us into a space of like driving our life out of fear, and like you probably don't want to make decisions out of fear because it's not really healthy.
Well,
So,
what it a lot of it too, like on an energetic level, the fear is a constriction,
yeah.
you know? And so what it is because a lot of this stuff, besides the self-talk, which of course it's all related and intertwined with one another, but besides like the mental self-talk, a lot of this stuff is physical. So like the currency and the energy in our life is related to the currency in our bodies. Like how conductive is our nervous system, how much energy is flowing through the different like organs and gland centers and things like that. So it's like we have this constriction, right? So fear comes in. It's like, ugh, this constriction comes in. And so that's energy flow somewhere in our body, depending on what type of fear it is, this constriction of the energy flow. And so then that's mirroring itself in the reality around us.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times too, we make decisions like in our life based on this fear, and it's not even always conscious. Like most of the time it's just such a program that we're running out. Like, not sharing resources with people that like would eventually, you both are sharing resources together and building together. I've experienced that a lot. I'm like, I've got all these resources, do you want to like share and then we can like go this way together? But I've seen a lot of people, myself included, I've made decisions out of fear. I've made decisions out of lack mentality. Um, and now, I've been like coaching people. We're living it like, so we were in Costa Rica in this place, like this bad, and like, it's a good experience, but really hard. Um, Learning the hard way. And now, because we chose, like, we didn't choose how it's going to happen, but we
We
chose
made the leap.
the level. Yeah, we made
Hmm.
the leap to the level of like what we're going to live our life at. Like,
Yeah, like set the bar.
right. So we chose that. We're like, okay, we're going to live an abundant lifestyle. We got a way bigger house. We got enough space for each of us to have our own room, plus an extra room. And we've been seeing like seriously like large amounts of money like come out of nowhere. And what happens is when you get the fear, because it still comes in for me too, like it's like imagine you have a room inside your mind, right? And this room is also what creates your projection in your reality.
Mm.
So there's always sound coming from everywhere. You're receiving information from others, your subconscious, like just everything, because we actually receive everything in existence every second. It's just the pineal gland and the neocortex are really what determines what we can access in the gray areas of the brain. So
Filters,
yeah, it's like filtering what it thinks that we should know or
sensory gating.
what's like available to us in the story that like is our life. But there's a lot of other things going on. So when we're talking about being mindful, and when people are talking about being mindful, what I feel it really means is like kind of like stalking your mind, like watching what's coming in, watching what's knocking at the door on the room and saying, hey, oh my God, you shouldn't spend that money because, this and that.
Delete.
Well, the thing is you need to see it first. Like
Yeah.
you need to look at the thing that's knocking. And when people talk about alchemy or transmutation, this is what we're talking about. Like it comes in, you don't ignore it. Like that's bypassing. We're not talking about spiritual bypassing. We're talking about
Converting it.
transmutation and conversion. Yeah, it's like how do you take the fear, which is a wound, it's wound. How do you take that and unwind it to transmute it into something that's beneficial? Because all these things that are knocking on that room in there are probably things that we need to sort out,
Yeah.
So this is the self work.
Like the skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, and this is the shadow work. This is the like alchemy. This is you being on this plane of existence, becoming a creator. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be things going on outside of us in this, in the room. So when it knocks in there, you can look at it and then you want to transmute it. So if you feel fear, you can be like, okay, I see you, fear, like, or however, develop your own practice. But sometimes what happens is we don't see what's really knocking on the door. We just, oh, it's a thought, right? And it just comes in. Now it's in the room. And now it's a monster,
right.
And it's like, oh, I need to do something in my life.
Tables and breaking
And we're
dishes.
like freaking out and having anxiety and like, oh, how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna do this? How, am I gonna survive? And I know a lot of people have this energy around money. So we're just talking about that specifically, but this could be applied to health issues, to family issues to relationships to
Spiritual,
whatever,
right.
is
Entities attacking us.
yeah, whatever is like causing you to feel like you're not in control, which what I teach people on a normal basis with like the human design and the soul mapping stuff is that like your mind is the thing that's not in control, right? But you are in control of stalking your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You're in control of watching what you allow in, and you're responsible for transmuting it. That's what you are responsible for. Everything else in your life can unfold if you, follow your form consciousness, not the mental consciousness. That's really what we're talking about. But so let's say something comes in that like is now a monster, because that happens.
Yeah.
So this is where the self-talk, it doesn't matter what stage you're at, if you're in a freaking out phase, doesn't matter where you are. Gratitude first, gratitude. Oh, thank you. Oh, laugh about it even. And then like, how do you transmute something? Let's say there's a really bad situation, like somebody just stole your car, or like, I don't know, something like really bad's happening and like you're getting kicked out of your house or just bad stuff. Let's take something extreme. You have to like transmute it in order to create something better. So if you sit there and you do neurosis, which is like a mental loop of like, oh my God, don't worry, 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 then you're going to create that because that's the box that you have that is your projector, and you're just going to create things that mimic that energy back to you. You're going to create more anxiety, more worry. So what do you want? First and foremost, what do you want? I want to feel like relaxed. I want to feel at peace.
Abundant.
Yeah, I want to feel abundant. I want to feel like no matter what, I'm okay. So you have to like, this is like the gratitude. This is the start of the transmutation, is like feeling what you actually want. Because it's not really, the money doesn't bring what you want. This is just something that is common for like most people is, the money problems, and it's just rampant on the planet.
I'll get the money and then I'll be able to do what I want to do.
Right.
Rather than, wait, I'm going to do what I want to do, and then the money's naturally going to flow in to support those decisions.
Yes, exactly. And then people not doing their, like what they want to do in their lives.
Right.
You want to be a painter, you want to be just a mother, and like that's a lot, or you just want to do a garden and like create a farm. People sometimes don't do what they actually want to do because they're making these decisions out of the fear, because what's knocking on the mind is saying, you can't do that. How are you going to survive? How are you going to do this? Well, we moved to Costa Rica, and then we moved here, and it was a jump because we had like no way to make money from Costa Rica, and now like we are thriving. Like, not everything is perfect, but it's like, dude, you gotta like really work with this energy. And I still get the things knocking on the mind. They don't go away, but these things come, and they're like, ooh, maybe you should be afraid of this. You're not going to make it. You're not going to do good. You're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in, by yourself, and like, how are you going to make this work? And all this, whatever it is that the subconscious like programming is telling us. And it still happens to me sometimes. Something will be allowed into the room, and I have to, like, at some point I'll realize it and go, oh, crap.
Why did I let that thing in?
Yeah, or I didn't know that was going to turn it
Right.
out into,
Yeah.
like, being this crazy monster that's, like, making me in a state of anxiety, and feeling like I don't have any control over anything. But this is what we have control over, is being able to transmute the things in our lives, and to honor ourselves and to honor others, to recognize balance, to change our self-talk, because all that stuff is also the self-talk. If you're not aware of what's coming in your mind, and you're just like letting anything come through the door, which all of us have experienced this or seen other people, and it really affects us, even if it's coming from the other person, because they're not making decisions anymore. They're not they're completely being controlled by the subconscious, by the shadow, so it is very difficult being around that energy, because they're creating like anxiety and which is still a reflection for all of us to see. So we can do this work for others too, recognizing what other people are going through, And when you know this about yourself and you start working through like the shadow and the wounds and the fear and all this stuff, and it may not be about money for you. It might be about your health. It might be about your relationships or your family. But once we start learning this process of alchemy and transmutation, then we can recognize in other people where they're at, and we can talk them through it. We
Yeah.
can guide them through that process, because sometimes we need to help each other. We need
Yeah,
to.
definitely. Well, and the thing is too, like, what we've been realizing is the more and more we get into this, it's like the more and more advanced kind of the techniques and the methods and the tactics kind of become, right? Like as we program and reprogram and go deeper, we learn, more and more about what we can do internally to refine that projection and like what we're calling in and how we're calling it in. And it's kind of like the organic versions of becoming programmers and hackers or something, like the more and more you get into how the code is actually working and what the mechanics are and the dynamics of it are, just like, building a website, you may start out like on Wix or something, and then after a few years, you're programming like Ethereum blockchain, and it's like you get more and more skilled at where the techniques and the abilities kind of build up, and
Yeah, and it's like you get more and more refined
mhm.
with the subtleties of things, because that's the awakening, that's the like enlightenment, that's the, coming to this place of expansion, and like where everyone's trying to go,
Yeah,
we're all just trying to go to a place where we can not feel like we're out of control with all this energy, because we're like processing units. All of us, we're like these vehicles of processing units that processes energy. So
hmm,
like we want the energy to flow good, not to get like bogged down in a place, which happens when we don't process something.
exactly.
So PTSD, the trauma loop of like, the things in the room, and it's just going and going and going, and the processing of things is the transmutation. The transmutation is to come to a place of gratitude for whatever it is. Even if it
Yeah,
seems like it was such a terrible thing, how can you be the creator, that's experiencing as the creation in a way that's transmuting everything into a space of like beauty and love? And that's, we are given that opportunity,
hmm,
and that's what we're here to do. So try it with the money stuff, and like I said, you can apply this to other things in your life. I do a lot of this work, throughout the day, but like at nighttime when I'm laying down, because that's normally for me when my mind will start to go like, oh, I need to do this. And, right before I go to bed, I start like thinking about stuff. So I've turned that into a practice, oh, my back hurts. Oh, I have like a healthy back, and I'm, going through whatever I need to go through, and to process it, and like being grateful for my back, and being grateful for, whatever it is that's kind of coming in that normally we might like put it into the zone of fear,
right.
and like that,
Yeah.
those are the things. Yeah, I hope this helps. We'll be doing more videos like this. We've had a few people ask us to talk more about this, like money alchemy, money magic.
Yeah, we did a couple episodes which we called the money game before we left Costa Rica, and about a week or so ago there was kind of like a revamp, like a re-interest in what we were doing with it, and so we
Mhm.
decided now that we've kind of really fully gotten through this shift of, you know, before when we were in Costa Rica and when we started it, and then now we're here as kind of like post, what a lot of this work has kind of given to us and the
Yeah.
gifts that it's provided for us.
Yeah, and I would suggest the book Busting Loose from the Money Game. That's like a good piece. It
Hmm.
talks about how, these quantum possibilities, or like that there's all these possibilities, and you collapse the waveforms, or with the room you create your reality. This is kind of how it works, which we're creating by how we process energy, right? We're not necessarily always dictating the energy, but kind of in a way. So I would suggest that book, and then we've also been getting into like the Joe Dispenza stuff,
Hmm.
which if you don't know who Joe Dispenza is, I would check him out. He does a lot. Like we started listening to You Are the Placebo Effect, which is really good. So that's more about like the body, right? So how to use this information with, how to create different like to heal your body, right? Different things with the body. And just how all these studies of like scientists and doctors, right? Of like how strong what we're telling you, how it works, like to heal people or make you sick.
Right.
It's either way. And then the other book that he has is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is really good too. So I would suggest checking those out. But we kind of piece a lot of this stuff together with like our own knowledge too, and just seeing how other people are working with it. But it is really powerful. I can absolutely say without a doubt that I am living the life that I want to live, and I have a lot of time. I have, I'm doing what I love every day. Like that's where everybody wants to get at. It's like, are you doing what you love? Do you have enough time? And do you feel like you're abundant and at a place of like acceptance, like do you accept life? And yeah, it's not perfect, but we're all kind of here to share, and this is what we've been experiencing, and seeing a lot of people's lives changing, so even if you feel that you have nothing, or you have no way to make money, or you are in a place of like sickness, or you feel like it's impossible for you, that's not true. And you need to get that and stop telling these stories. You have to. You gotta change it. How do you change that? Okay, look, I'm in this position, but I have the ability to create. Thank you. I have the ability to work with energy. I have the ability to create what I want. And then focus on the feeling. Really feel the feeling of what you want. If it's joy, if it's peace, if it's like, you've got $100,000 and you're like, gonna build a house or whatever it is you want, go to that place inside and envision that and feel it. Feel like what that really feels like, and then let it go. Like, it's not your job to figure out how to get there, that's where the vehicle and other energies of reality start to bring us, I think that it's more important to focus on what you feel, and like what would you do right after you got what you wanted, and this is how we manifested the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We went and found this house, and the day before we found it, I was like, okay, I'm like doing this practice. I'm like, okay, wow, this is amazing. I feel the house, and didn't know what it was going to look like. And I was like, what would be the first thing that I would do, after I get the house? I'm going through the visualization and the embodiment. I was like, oh, I'd call your mom, and we found the house. It's awesome. So I did that. And next day, boom, like first thing in the morning, house is way better than we imagined. Like way cheaper than and it's right in town, like everything. So use this, work with it, and let us know how it's going for you.
Yeah, and of course, we're always there to help. If you, feel free to come to our site at soulmapping.life, and if you need some extra help beyond what you've heard here today, reach out to us and make an appointment, or find us on Facebook or anything like that. That's what we're here for. So we appreciate you guys and girls and everyone out there. And thank you for tuning in.
Bye, guys.